Hello! Hello, my name's Derek Bailey. For those who don't know me, I've been a wood turner now for over 40 years and taught for 8 of them. It's just over a year and 2 weeks since I started doing my videos. So I suppose it's a belated birthday, if you like. Christmas is approaching, as we all know, and so I thought I'd do a little project here on my little Axminster lathe, and I got a bit of enjoyment out of it. You've seen them all before. You'll probably find out what I'm making as I go along, but it has a nice little twist, I think, at the end. So I hope you like it, and that's enough waffling. Let's get on. For those who've never seen one before, this is a banksia nut from Australia. It's an ugly thing, and sometimes I wonder what the heck's in those holes. Anyway, I've turned it off camera to a cylinder and I'll put it in the chuck. For my project, I need to know how deep the holes go in this banksia nut, so I'm just prodding the holes, hope there's nothing inside, to see how deep they are, because I need to drill a hole in the middle that will expose those holes internally. What you're seeing now is my first attempt at this project, so any of you who's watching me, you may find an easier way of doing what I'm doing. I thought of it afterwards, but when you're doing something brand new, you're bound to make mistakes or think of a better way of doing it. A lot of my work, I don't pre-make them and then do a video and do another one. I try to film all my videos as I'm making it up as I go along. I'm using a 1.5 inch diameter Forstner bit here to get the hole started, and then I'm going to drill a smaller hole near enough, about, well, I'd say about 7/8, 3/4 of the length of the banksia nut. After measuring the depth of the hole, using that small measurement I made, I've produced a little Sharpie circle in the middle of it to determine what diameter I need to drill the hole to expose all those seed pod holes internally. Here, rough estimate, it comes out at about 3/4 of an inch diameter hole needed. Here I'm going to drill the hole with a spade drill. Now I think it's about 16mm diameter. I'm just estimating the depth I need. I certainly don't want to go right through the full length of the banksia nut, so I'm just estimating just how much of the shank of the spade drill needs to go into the chuck. The reason I'm drilling the small hole first is because I need to enlarge the hole later on to a depth of about 25mm, 30mm. But the little lathe can't take a larger diameter Forstner, so I might as well drill the small hole first so I haven't as much material to remove with the Forstner bit. This 1.5 inch diameter Forstner is reducing the wall thickness just a bit too thin really, and it's causing a bit of vibration. I'm worried because of the brittleness of the banksia nut that it might break away where the pod holes are, but I'm just about getting away with it, I think. Well, I didn't quite get away with it. I think there's about 1/4 inch of chip out, so I'll have to face it off. I drilled the hole a bit deeper to compensate for the reduction in length as I face off the base. Got to be very careful here because of the wall thickness and the fragility of it with all the pod holes. I don't over tighten the chuck on the internal diameter. I don't want it cracking. Whoops, the camera shut down. I didn't know when I was turning the top. Sorry about that. But you'll get a basic gist of what I'm doing later on. Banksia nuts are very, very brittle. Sometimes it's like turning, you're getting like shrapnel, so it's advisable to always wear a face visor because they're quite hard particles that come off as you're turning, so anybody who uses a banksia nut, just bear that in mind. Carbide tip tools are great for this really hard banksia nut, keep their edge a lot longer. But unfortunately with my tremors I can't confidently use the square carbide tips, so I've reverted to the spindle roughing gouge. On second thoughts, I could have used the square edge carbide tip tools and used it in shear scraping mode, because then you've got a sort of pseudo bevel to rest on. You see, my tremors don't allow me to cut straight away. The bevel's great for me because I can slowly introduce the cutting edge to the wood. But I think I could have got away with it with the shear scraping mode on the square edge carbide tip tools, but never mind. I suppose some of you have noticed that I didn't need to have turned the end down like that to such a very fine diameter. It just caused a load of vibration. Well, like I said, I'm making this up as I go along. I could have created the long taper first and then done the detail of the top later on. I didn't like the wall thickness at the base of the project. It's a little bit too thin, and there's a deformity in the banksia nut just where that big diameter is. So I'm filling in with some araldite and sawdust. Here I'm using the screw chisel. I suppose I could have used it in normal mode, but I don't want to be bothered with it. It's quite brittle, as I said before, is a banksia nut, and it's quite bumpy, so I don't think it would give me a great deal of advantage. So I've reverted to scraping mode and smooth off the spindle roughing gouge work earlier. I'm going to make 4 sections of this banksia nut, and I'm just marking them off. It's just out of the top of my head really, there's nothing planned about it, so we'll see how it comes out. I'm just checking how much material I've got to play with, as I'm going to remove some sections of the banksia nut, so I don't want to encroach onto the centre hole and end up with lots of 4 or 5 different bits of banksia nut. As you can hear, it sounds quite a vibratory cutting action, and it's quite hard, and little bumps everywhere, and so it's hard to keep a nice constant flow from the tool chisel. But it's in some way it's quite satisfying to see the shine and sheen coming off just from the tool action. Here I'm just using the 1/8 parting tool to create an undercut on the flanges of these forms, conical forms. I'm assuming you've guessed by now what I'm making. Yes, it's a Christmas tree. I hope it looks like a Christmas tree when I'm finished. Here I'm using Abranet abrasives, starting at 100 grit right up to 400. It's quite hard, like I said, banksia nut is quite hard, but I'm not going to use Yorkshire grit on here because obviously I'm going to get the paste into the pod holes, which will be a bit of a bind to get out. So I'm just staying with the abrasives. To be mindful of when I'm using the abrasives on a banksia nut, especially with all these pod holes, is that I make sure that I'm working on the downward side of the rotation and not working against it. I could use a few fingernails or make a mess of the holes if I trap the abrasive sheets in it. So I'm making sure that I'm on the correct side of the rotation. Spray sanding seal and melamine lacquer come into their own here. If I'd have used liquid, it could have coagulated against the edges of the pod holes, but because it's spray, it doesn't leave a nasty little raised portion around each hole, and makes a nice even application.
Well, here it is, banksia Christmas tree. I was hoping that the holes would give a more realistic appearance to the tree itself. It'll be interesting to see your adaptations of this design. It's a pretty basic design, but the rest is down to your imagination. I'm sure you can make more elaborate representations. Anyway, again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see you in my next video. Take care.